Sit with the after effects of meditation, witnessing your mind, your body, your emotional nature, your heart. Fully integrate the experience of meditation into your very being. Connect with your heart and send loving kindness to all people everywhere, without exception. Tap into your power to bless and envision people in your own life receiving this loving kindness. See your neighbors, your community, receiving this light, this peace, this wish for their highest good. Expand this loving kindness to embrace our entire state, and every aspect, all creatures, the earth, all life on the earth. Allow this feeling of loving kindness to expand, to embrace all nations and our planet. And see this peace and loving kindness lifting hearts everywhere. Returning to awareness of our own mind and body, may we know that this consciousness graces our day, illumines our consciousness, our mind, our body, our spirit. Let's chant Om and seal our time of meditation with sacred sound. Peace. May our thoughts be aligned with Dharma. May our speech be aligned with Dharma. May our heart and our actions be aligned with Dharma. And so it is. Om, peace. Amen. We bring ourselves, mind, body, and spirit to our study of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, including the core teachings and core practices for our path. This week we continue in Book 3 on extraordinary powers that result from dedicated practice. Sutras 37 through 40. (37) continues discussion about 36, which is realization of one's essence of being, provides knowledge of the difference between it and ordinary states of consciousness. 37. From that superior realization, exceptional powers of perception and extraordinary abilities result. From Roy Eugene Davis's The Science of Self-Realization, his commentary on Sutra 37, it is natural for a person who is spiritually conscious to have these powers and abilities, which many people who are not yet spiritually awake consider to be exceptional. It is natural for a person who is spiritually conscious to have these powers and abilities. As you have most likely already witnessed from your own years of practice, ordinary awareness produces ordinary results. But when the senses and the mind are purified through the kriyas or actions performed as spiritual practice, meaning for the purpose of self and God realization, then extraordinary results follow. Yes, when we are clearly focused and practicing with the purpose of self and God realization, we have divine results. Yes? Have you found that to be true to some extent? Sutra 38. When used for external purposes, they become obstacles to the accomplishment of higher samadhi. They should be primarily used to weaken and remove harmful, subliminal tendencies. Using these powers and abilities only to fulfill mundane purposes or to satisfy ego-motivated desires interferes with spiritual growth. They can, however, be wisely used to enhance everyday circumstances and superconscious meditation practice. So without going into particular abilities, we can know that these super sensitivities, I would call them, are used when they're used for ego-related purposes or ego-based drives will be strengthened. Right? So the more we indulge in ego-based activity, the stronger ego becomes. And we'll lose our sense of direction, which should be toward higher living. We end up taking side roads that lead again to sense-based self-identification. So if we use these powers just to gain strength in the material and sense-based world, that's where we'll stay. If we use them for higher purposes, they are supportive of our goal. Sutra 39. By focused concentration, one can enter or identify with the mind and body of another person. Identifying with the mind of another person enables us to know its condition, and when appropriate and permissible, to constructively influence it. When appropriate and permissible, to constructively influence it. The best way to assist others is to share your realization of wholeness with them. endeavors to mentally control or harm others with thoughts or willpower should be avoided. I remember a story that Roy G told about how he requested samadhi from Yoganandaji in his stories about his relationship with him and his experience of him, and how Yoganandaji showed him, assisted him in seeing a particular light that reveals itself in consciousness when meditated upon. And when I think about that story, I think about Yogananda's purpose for doing it, which I cannot know the mind of Yogananda, but I know that he did it out of loving kindness. He was able to, I don't want to use the word access, he was able to penetrate a bit Roji's mind and show this phenomena to him. And I know he did not do it to prove he could do it, right? He did it out of kindness and to reveal to Roji the connection between them and the extraordinary power of, I would say, love and focused concentration. The powers of an awakened yogi are amazing, and the blessing is that Sri Davis did not go down the road of, wow, I want to be able to do that, you know. Do you know what I mean? He, I think, took it for what it was, which was a very sweet gesture and a little teeny revelation of what is possible through yoga practice. In the commentary of Christopher Isherwood and Swami Prabhupada in How to Know God, on this particular sutra section, they tell a story about Shankara, who is a great yogi. I don't even want to go into the whole story of Shankara, but how he entered the body of a recently deceased king to rule in his stead, but particularly to have the experience in another's body that was part of a, not as base as a bet, but kind of a bet with another yogi, with the stakes being, I will convert your followers to my belief system and to follow me. So he enters this other body, and the challenge was, well, you think you know everything, but you don't know anything about sex, because he was a Swami. He didn't know anything about sex, right? So he was like, I'm going to lose this bet. Well, no, I know what I'll do. I'll experience it through another body. So he did that. But for me, the teaching in this story was that while he was doing that, he got kind of lost and distracted and began to believe that he was this person. And his devotees had to come and shake him out of it by reminding him of who he really was. So that was the teaching for me, was that even this great master yogi, revered throughout all time, got lost while using these extraordinary techniques. So I thought it was a great story on many levels. But that's what drove it home for me. Was, oh my goodness, Andy got lost and had to be rescued by his devotees. And Sutra 40. Mastery of the upward flowing aspect of prana enables one to avoid contact with harmful conditions in nature and to leave the body consciously at the time of transition. Sri Davis says 5 aspects of life force are expressive in the physical body. When the influence of the upward flowing aspect of life force prevails, a feeling of lightness is sensed. Awareness is inclined to be identified with the higher chakras and their characteristics, and superconsciousness is easier to maintain. I'm sure you've experienced that with focusing your attention in the higher regions of the brain and focusing on the Anya chakra. When transition from the body is inevitable, a spiritually awakened person, a spiritually aware person, can choose to depart by raising their life forces through the central channel in the spine to the crown chakra. This is the advice that Roy G always gave us and gives us now. To keep your attention uplifted. Not only uplifted in the sense of being positive and aspiring to perfection in yoga practice, leading to full experience of who and what we are, but to keep our attention uplifted in practice to higher regions and to the crown chakra. That practice, I'm sure, enabled him to be prepared at his time of transition, and will also enable us to be prepared to leave the body in the most conscious way when our time comes. And as I've said before, early in my practice, I read and heard that a major part of our spiritual practice is preparing ourselves to leave our body consciously. Because that at that time, it is said to be the most important moment of your practice, is to be conscious when the time comes for you to pass from this realm. And those who hold that there is a continuation of consciousness and possibly a re-entry into this realm, that the way in which we leave our body has an influence upon that. The way that our consciousness is when we leave our body has an influence on our journey, the journey of the soul. So, of course, we would seek to be in our best mind and focused on self and God realization at that time. So that is the sutras we're studying today, and I invite your beautiful wisdom and commentary of your own.